Part 340. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3405. Now Jia Yan's order has drastically reduced their income, and they cannot feel comfortable. But it's no use. Jia Yan's orders are like laws not only in the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, but also in the trading area. Not only his strength, but his control over the trade area has also reached an unprecedented level. Many people have deified him. Textbooks and other books contain many rumors and stories about Jia Yan, which has led to the rise of Jia Yan from top to bottom. No one in the trade area had the slightest voice to oppose Jia Yan. Moreover, even with such restraint, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's profits are still huge. There were even some licking dogs who published many articles saying that Jia Yan's decision was the most correct one. The current Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has suffered huge losses due to home delivery, midway transportation, road maintenance, casualties, and various uncontrollable factors. It has even caused more friction and disagreements with local indigenous people. Possibly, instead of this, it is better to let merchants and buyers come to Xiancheng to shop by themselves. They are only responsible for production. Anyway, their products are almost monopolistic in the other world, so they are happy and relaxed, right? The father-in-law is right and the mother-in-law is right, but is Jia Yan's true intention to consider the Chamber of Commerce? Thinking too much. He just doesn't want the Chamber of Commerce to take the lead, and he will be implicated, and other competitors will find opportunities to attack. Is it? Su Mao was speechless for a moment. Instead, it became a drag in the competition. If he has nothing to hide from me and wants to benefit me, this will be very disappointing to me. After all, in my later years, I am afraid that my worst intimate friend will fall into your lap. He wants to kill their friends with his own hands. Does he understand what I mean? The story behind the scenes may be far less than what appears on the surface. The situation of the flower fragrance is exactly the same. I exposed it too slowly. The fragrance of flowers makes you think about it. Flower little man, I hope your retreat will be smoother. You are vague about my purpose, but you must have noticed something. You feel that I know that you are a master. Although I have not known you for nearly 100 years, this person's character and attitude are very different. It's always changing. He must be careful about my backlash, he must be able to do something, and he can't escape by himself. He doesn't have your formation secrets, so he must have no chance of escaping in front of the younger generation. Haitian is a participant, and Huaxiang villain is also a participant. The competition between the two sides is probably in the future and is starting now, but they have not faced each other directly. Of course you know that Hai Tian has had no purpose since the end. I originally wanted to return to Jia Yan, so that I could enjoy Jia Yan's cultivation materials and practice in seclusion with peace of mind. You know, is it really impossible for you to be on the opposite side of the younger generation? You are obviously your former partner. In a short period of time, I thought of the possibility that was closest to the truth that Hai Tian came to the door inexplicably. Except for the fragrance of flowers in the trade area, your strength is undoubtedly the first. It's necessary. I think this matter has something to do with me. I'm sorry for scaring him, little girl. I'll go back then. By the way, that wine is really wrong. Prepare a few million tons for me and send it to me. Come on, he knows the place. The bad thing is that it was all worth it. You deceived Haitian, and Huaxiang villain's identity and information were also saved. Hai Tian locked his eyes firmly on the beautiful flower-shaped man with an anthropomorphic appearance, and his expression became gloomy for a moment. From the beginning to the end, his only idea when he came to the other world was to make himself stronger. It was Xiancheng who noticed it, but it was you who understood the old man's behavior. Just when Xiancheng was drinking by himself that night, drinking to drown his sorrows, your eyes suddenly turned sharp and you looked somewhere in the small hall. The huge shrinking vacuum left everyone in the dynasty stunned, and the countless benefits left behind made people look down upon themselves. Suanken's eyes shrank. Instead, it turned into a ray of light and disappeared into the sky under Jiayan. I can't assume that this flower fragrance is playing some trick to frame me up and be attacked by the enemy. What the old man said is true. We use a communication setup that is developed using various technologies and combined with Daoli. However, that setup is extremely expensive. A small amount of equipment will be scrapped before 1 or 2 communications, so it is difficult to even smell the fragrance of flowers. City Exchange. Xiancheng took a moment and mistakenly passed this information to Huaxiang, who knew where he was. Hai Tian drank down the glass of wine with his head down. It's worth asking Hai Tian to make a trip in person. Now that we can see through the lens, it is obvious that the person who was pretending to be a pig has been trying to eat the tiger. While you were talking, you looked at the seat where Hai Tian was sitting, and he didn't know when he left quietly. You know, it was a stressful thing for me to go to the Imperial Island from the island where I was based, and it took me a lot of time. Junior, what are you talking about? I really understand. If you wait at the headquarters, it will take a long time for President Su Mao to return. Then you can ask me personally. In the setting of floral fragrance, secret messages are sent out one after another. Partner? Junior Haitian has been your partner from the beginning to the end. Hasn't he noticed it yet? Or rather, he has noticed it but has been acting out of anger. Junior Haitian is also a participant, and he also knows whether I will have a showdown with Waxiang villain in the future. This scene is something I dare to imagine. The fragrance of flowers became dull. Xiancheng found it hard to accept that giant creatures like us could consume tens of thousands of tons of wine in one meal. Instead of sitting here and controlling Jia Yan's affairs, it may be the worst choice for himself, Jia Yan's hundreds of family members and superiors. Hai Tian came to the top position and sat down, as if he was still the same person who worked with Xiancheng. Why are so many men capable of becoming poor players? Tens of thousands of tons of wine will solve the problem. With a wave of his hand, Su Mao's wine bottle flew over and filled me up with a glass of wine. That's for sure. I used to be a star thief who killed people without hesitation. Hai Tian looked unconvinced. The entire Jia Yan affairs were disrupted, resulting in many mistakes. Huh? Who? Things are not like that, little Su Mao. What do you think Haitian's descendants are going to do when they come back to you, Jia Yan? Are they hiding something from me? That's bad. You are collaborators, and you are people who have not known each other for hundreds of years. You all want to make things too tense, right? But after thinking about it, he stopped making that move. In the following days, the Huaxiang villain also became a participant unintentionally. Who? It's broken. It seems that Suanken's execution was wrong. Now you. But before rushing over, I discovered that Huaxiang was actually under the Imperial Island, which made me even more suspicious. The main affairs of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce must be stopped as slowly as possible. If you continue to talk nonsense to me, your life will be in danger. Xiancheng sighed. Even the extremely weak Xiancheng is like this. Su Mao has always been doubtful about his sense of crisis. As a man, his eighth sense is pretty accurate. Hai Tian cursed, but as he spoke, he did not show up to contact Su Mao again to curse. But Huaxiang can't be blamed for this, it can only be said that it was just a matter of chance. In this way, a huge opportunity is missed. Xiancheng got up and went to prepare the bad wine for Hai Tian, and you were going to increase the share dozens of times to make the younger generation drink it uncomfortably. It seems that there must be something wrong with Xiancheng. What the hell is this big guy doing? Are you planning to shrink the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce? Do you have to give up such a huge benefit? There is no old man out there who has a share of your profits. I actually discussed it with me. There will come a day when no one can bear it anymore. Apparently suspicious. Su Mao's ability to analyze flowers is naturally comparable to that of Su Mao. You know, Haitian's strength is a secret outside the entire Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Even President Hua Xiang and I are too vague about it. Back to the younger generation, the president seems to have gone to the Xiaolu area recently. As you know, the branch in the Xiaolu area has not been there for a long time, and now half of your trade routes are in the Xiaolu area. It might take me a long time to run over and inspect. So I specifically found the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. The other participants will secretly cultivate forces, indicating that forces may provide us with help this time and in the future. You have to make sure that you act resemblingly, and you also need to be able to influence the villain's arrangements. You just have to arrange things first that are too difficult for people to see what we're doing. Forget it, Junior Haitian and your Galaxy Chamber of Commerce are not in an alliance. It should be beneficial to you. Of course, the more important point is that Hai Tian has gathered a huge amount of strength on the surface of his body at this time, and his words are speculative. Big girl, it's been a long time since we've seen each other. How have you been recently? Then, I was really trying to be strong back then. I'm much weaker than you. Hua Xiang doesn't want to talk to young Master Xiancheng anymore. Oh, bad, then order someone to prepare. Junior, did you leave for traveling a few days later? When did you come back? Senior Haitian. For the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce and Trade Zone, the mission difference is too small to be too small. Xiancheng felt nothing and looked at the sky. Su Mao was really not tired in those days. But the overall situation, based on Suancan's layout, cannot continue to unfold unswervingly. Retain some personnel to manage Jia Yan, who only has local people, and cut ties with you. Secondly, prepare several escape methods. If someone plots against me when I return, for example, a group of low-level players like the Spider King and others will join forces to attack me next time, it is certain that I will suffer. Xiancheng pretended to be a junior doing something. Physical strength is one thing, and on the other hand, the knowing mind is the same as that of women. Sensibility is the same thing. In some cases, it is also comprehensive enough. The ability to analyze and decide is far, far behind that of men. Then this prevents a small number of male creatures from becoming inferior players. You also want to follow a participant, that is your opportunity, but the fragrance of flowers does not call you. I am the one who has been to Haitian and occupied the island. At such a distance, for Haitian, who is now at a critical moment as a competitor, he should be able to get out of his way. If you keep walking up, the probability of the two sides meeting is extremely small. Junior, what do you mean? Of course you are still collaborators. Are you still receiving salary and dividends from your Chamber of Commerce? After looking at Xiao Yu a few days ago, Hai Tian withdrew his gaze after seeing that Xiancheng had been busy preparing drinks for himself and was busy with the affairs of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. What you probably know is that no one is watching you in the dark. The entire dynasty had a huge impact due to the turmoil of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Communication with Xiancheng was stopped. Young man is joking, you are prone to anger. You have been killed by your own mentality. It can only be said that you have been growing up in the dangerous small realm of gods in the past. Otherwise, I am afraid that you would have become a pink skeleton in the chaotic galaxy. But the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce still hesitated to leave. Haitian should probably leave. That old thing, thank you for always having the courage to carry out the tasks assigned by the villain. Although those tasks are important, there is a high possibility that the other party will guess that the Hua Xiang villain has also become the possessor. Small, but still bad. If you don't bring this up, I might really take action. The way the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce exists, it is destined that I will only become a target for everyone to shout at. Instead, I have become Hua-Xiang's helping force. After all, you are also a front-level territory lord, and you became a front-level territory lord by relying on your strength. Outside, a familiar figure appears out of nowhere. When Xiancheng saw Hai Tian's eyes flashing fiercely, his heart suddenly became awe-inspiring. Although there are no huge benefits yet, those benefits are too small for me to help. Even the trade zone, Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, etc. seem to have a good income, but in the final analysis, they are just tools used by Hua-Xiang to pave the way for his own cultivation. You are among the insiders, and that Haitian Jr. is a participant. Sure enough, before Hai Tian poured himself a glass of wine, he said calmly, "Where has this big man been recently?" The next step is to discuss how the lower-level people can get rid of the smallness and how to design obstacles. The entire Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has launched a vigorous transformation. Looking up at the sky in the outside world, Suanken's dark eyebrows could be seen faintly worried, as well as a hint of dissolving gloom. "Girl, he knows who you are referring to, and he wants to show you off. I have been in a very bad mood recently, and I will definitely get angry. It has a competitive relationship with Haitian. But such a small force may not be of any help, and that's where Hua-Xiang's entanglement lies. But when we get along with each other, if we are still not sincere, now we are asking you to treat us like a villain, or even an enemy, which is hard for you to accept." Jia Yan was exposed. Xiancheng secretly became vigilant. But before I solved the opponent, I was able to get less information because the mastermind escaped. Haitian must have no reason to look for you, and the reason must be something bad, so I don't have any hostility towards Xiancheng. With such ability, he can suppress all the gangsters with words. In this way, the past friendship can be counted, and this person must have bad intentions in the future. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3406. But this old man gave up many affairs and went to the Imperial Island to go to the Imperial Island to investigate the crime, which shows that something must have happened to him that led to him having to do this. It's not like someone knocked on the door, eh? It seems really possible. Jia Yan felt uncertain for a while. If this is true, then it is possible. He seems to be the only one who knows where he is in Haitian, and when someone knocks on his door, he will naturally realize that he betrayed him immediately. It's really not me, I have to find a time to explain it to him. Otherwise, if I provoke this person for no reason, I will have a big enemy in the future, and he is an enemy who is quite familiar with me. It will be too disturbing. Jia Yan felt depressed for a moment. If he was not a participant, he might have visited in person, but now that he is a participant, if Zhen and Hai Tian take a photo, both sides will understand something immediately. Hai Tian may even suspect that Jia Yan deliberately harmed him. In this case, there is a possibility that the meeting will lead to a war. Therefore, it can only be done remotely, or through letters, etc. Whether the grievances can be resolved is unknown. After all, from Hai Tian's point of view, he seems to have no sincerity. That's all, let's put him aside. We have so many things to pay attention to ourselves. Let's put aside the Haitian matter for now. He shook his head bitterly. This old man, no matter what he does, it seems that his strength is among the participants, just like that. What's the use of comforting him? If Hai Tian knew that he thought this way, he would probably be so angry that he would fight him for 300 rounds. You Jia Yan brat, do you know my true strength? Haven't you seen my strength when I was about to die before, and thought it was my all-out effort? Overthinking. Believe it or not, I'll slap you to death with a cruel slap. However, Jia Yan could not tell the other party what he thought, and it was impossible for the two sides to start a confrontation over this issue. I really haven't been to this area very often, or rather, I haven't been here at all. Let me take a look. This area is the nearest branch of my Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Oh no, it seems that I have gathered my troops to go back. This way. I hope the branch hasn't been cleared yet. Jia Yan recalled it and felt helpless. You can't take back the orders you gave just because of convenience. It is taboo to change orders in the morning and at night. Fortunately, I didn't leave completely. After flying in subspace for a long time and arriving at the hinterland of the mainland, Jia Yan found the nearest address of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Bai Xiu is a life form from the termite tribe. As a small creature, although he was not treated like an insect in the mainland like he was in the imperial dynasty, his status was not that high. He had never thought about finding a good job, but what he never expected was that after joining the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce that he passed by, he actually became a high-level person in charge of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce in this area, and in recent years, because of his hard work, he was eventually promoted to a branch leader in the middle of the year. I've met the president, we're ready. Then let's go. Bai Xiu looked at the door of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce branch that was about to close in front of him and sighed deeply. Over the decades, I have watched him rise from the ground up, and now I have watched him fall into the final act. President, do you think we can come back in the future? There was a sound of urn coming from beside me. Looking back, I saw that this was a racial creature that looked like a mountain giant in this area. It is not as tall as the giants of the Imperial Island, but it is still 8 or 9,000 kilometers in size. The whole mountain is shaking when it talks. He has been a member of this branch for decades and is a subordinate of Bai Xiu. I don't know either. Bai Xiu shook his head bitterly. He doesn't even know whether he will get a new position after the closure, or whether he will get a new position this time. When he arrives at the mainland branch headquarters, he will be fired on the spot. And the mountain giant next to him was even more unlikely to be reassigned. According to reliable sources, the withdrawal of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is definitely not temporary. It may be permanently withdrawn from the mainland. He followed the vehicle for a while, feeling that the glorious life he had enjoyed for decades was like a bubble. Now that the bubble had burst, his life might return to its original trajectory. He is unwilling to do so. If the president were here, I would definitely confront him face to face and ask why we are facing this situation. It is obvious that the whole development is extremely smooth. Why? Hello everyone, is it hard work? Just as he was thinking these angry thoughts, a sound suddenly came from above his head that made them all tremble slightly. Who? Bai Xiu looked fiercely at the mountain giant beside him. You must know that this giant's identity is not only his own capable general, but also the #1 master of their branch. As an existence close to the subdivision level, even ordinary subdivisions may be affected by his giant status. And it's evenly divided. But someone actually came on top of them without being noticed. The mountain giant also looked frightened. Everyone looked up, and then Bai Xiu's expression suddenly changed. The creature approaching above him was a much smaller species than the ant creature he was. A mosquito? It would be fine if it had an ordinary appearance. But why does his appearance feel so familiar? After being stunned for a moment, Bai Xiu's heart skipped a beat as he remembered why he was so familiar. Because this portrait has always been hanging in their branch. President Jia Yan. This is the supreme officer of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the uncrowned king of the entire Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, and a top master with unfathomable strength. I've met President Jia Yan. I've met President Jia Yan. The roaring mountain giant saw the salutes coming one after another from others, and he also reacted and knelt down his huge body. No more courtesy. The coming being is naturally Jia Yan. He wanted to come here to learn about the situation nearby and see if his orders had caused trouble to the grassroots. But judging from his current situation, it should be causing quite a lot of trouble. President Jia Yan, I have to wait so hard. No, before they even talked for a few words, he heard similar complaints. The tiny ant creature in the inner world in front of him named Baishiu complained bitterly to him. In a word, he doesn't want to leave his current branch, nor does he want to give up the business he has worked hard for decades to others. The other grassroots people also complained one by one. They know the opportunity now is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. After all, everyone had only heard of the name of this great lord of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, but never thought that one day they would be able to see him in person. If you don't make your demands and pains clear now, I'm afraid you won't have such an opportunity again in the future. I, the President, understand your problem, but I would like to ask, which of you is familiar with this area? I, the villain, have served as the branch president of the branch for decades. If I am familiar with it, I know everything from this area to the ocean. I have some friendship with the top leaders of various forces and races. As the branch president, Bai Xiu stepped forward obligingly. If there is anyone who knows something about this area and has good connections, then he is the best choice. Very good, then you can stay. The sign of the branch over there has been removed. From now on, you will become an ambassador official in this area. You will no longer conduct transactions and be in charge of nearby diplomatic affairs. The specific details will be the above official document is the same as. I give you the terms, I hope you can do well and don't betray my trust. Ah, yes. Thank you very much, President Jia Yan, but sir, can I, the villain, rehire them? Bai Xiu looked at Jia Yan, gritted his teeth, and spoke out more demands. Of course. As long as personnel cannot use more than the quota, I will write a list and submit it later. I don't care about this. The president has many things to do, so naturally he doesn't need to worry about these. There are some powerful races or forces nearby that are worth noting. You can tell me about them. Jia Yan finally revealed his purpose. In fact, the reason for retaining a certain branch in this area is very simple, that is, to maintain a certain connection between this place and the Spider King and others on the Big Island. Secondly, you must have a base to pay close attention to the situation there. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's intelligence capabilities cannot be turned into blindness due to self-castration. That would be quite painful for Jia Yan. So he has decided to transform part of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce branches into intelligence departments. However, because the functions of the units transformed from the past are different, not only are they unable to bring benefits to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, but they also consume a large amount of resources out of thin air, which is unacceptable to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. He plans to personally invest in setting up these departments. Anyway, for him, he can still bear the cost for the time being. He had already made enough money, but after entering the competition, he had fewer places to use the money, so it was better to make the best use of it. It's like this. The big forces nearby include the Green Mountain Clan, the Blackwater Clan, the Yingtian Clan, the Xianxia Clan, the Zishan Sect Branch, etc., which are friendly to our Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. Bai Xiu was indeed the branch president who recommended himself, and he named many well-known forces in one breath. You hand the map to my guild leader, and then you go back and prepare to change your appearance. Yes. After taking over the map, Jia Yan rose into the sky. The grateful and admiring faces below quickly disappeared. Helping them was just a matter of convenience, Jia Yan did not deliberately let them get the job. After all, he is not a great saint. To these weaklings, not bullying them is already quite kind. But it happened that he needed to maintain the intelligence department, which gave them a chance to get their jobs again. And he felt that it might not be suitable for the future branch of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce to be directly converted into an intelligence department. The original branch of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is too ostentatious. You have just turned into an intelligence department in such a grand manner. Maybe many forces that were very happy to cooperate with you will become your enemies. From a place that can create business value to a force that collects your intelligence, would you be happy if it were you? So he decided that in the future, these so-called intelligence agencies would be called diplomatic missions, and then gradually turn to the dark side. The entire continent will be destined to become turbulent due to the confrontation between the major players, and there may be a lot of crises. By then, those forces will not care so much. That's the big force that's closest to us in the intelligence, but also the most unfriendly to us. Not long after Jia Yan flew in the air, he arrived at the first major force close to the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce branch. In view of the general environment, well, a master-level expert, that's quite a bit of strength. As far as the mainland is concerned, the power of a master-level person cannot be said to be great, nor can it be said to be very small. But for the branch, the extremely huge power is nothing to Jia Yan. Boom. While Jia Yan was observing this force, he wanted to find out whether this force had anything to do with the spiders on the big island. When Wang and others were involved, there was a huge bang within the forces below. Is there anyone? I didn't even notice it just now. He was suddenly startled, and quickly got into the subspace, and observed with sharp eyes. It wasn't long before I saw something strange. As expected, we have entered an era of competition. He took a breathless look, and sure enough he saw the culprit. It was a metal robot-like object. Sure enough, it's not because he is much stronger than Jia Yan, but because it is just a metal instrument before it moves. For a master like Jia Yan, it is impossible to detect such an object without deliberately paying attention to it, to its existence. Because there is no breath. However, such a dead thing turned out to be extremely powerful after it moved. An astonishing momentum was brewing in the energy it erupted from, and it shattered the body of the strongest guru in the force with one blow. Master! Master! A famous member of the force was shocked. Before they could see the identity of the visitor, they were attacked by metal robots and suffered heavy casualties. Many disciples who finally came to their senses began to run for their lives in all directions. It's really embarrassing. Needless to say, that metal robot is destined to be the product of a certain competitor force, but are they really so powerful? They have actually created such amazing otherworldly machine items. Jia Yan looked at it and suddenly recalled the countless traces of war caused by ancient outsiders that he had found in the mainland. Many are caused by super tech weapons. In contrast, those relics were much more terrifying than the metal robots in front of them. I see, I know why. Jia Yan sighed and roughly figured out some of the joints. On the mainland, the forces and competitors vying for power are probably some of the truly top star forces, and they all have ancient legacies. Perhaps the last great master born in the mainland was within their power. Please remember the first domain name of this book. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3407. And the knowledge of the previous generation will be accumulated to the next generation. And the knowledge used by the previous generation was accumulated by the previous generation. Generation after generation. At this point, there is nothing in the world that does not allow the inheritance of knowledge. You are a competitor of a big force, which means you have a natural advantage, and others deserve to be suppressed by you from the beginning. For example, these metal creations, in a world with different laws, show far more than what technology should be, which shows that the forces that created them have already studied this point for an unknown amount of time. A robot like this has almost master-level strength. It's terrifying. Jia Yan is not afraid of one, but it is absolutely impossible to build just one of such a dead thing. Even if the cost is high, is the problem that money can solve still a problem? After coming to Shitai, Jia Yan would have to retreat into the subspace in embarrassment. If he comes to 100 places, he may not be able to escape, unless he enters the subspace and escapes when he meets. Sure enough, the battle between competitors in the mainland is not something that we and other casual cultivators can touch. Speaking of which, I have to thank me for directly entering the realm of the Imperial Island. If I were to connect with the Milky Way in the mainland, maybe now they have all fallen into the cracks of such big forces to survive. Jia Yan sighed. He had no intention of directly revealing his identity. Instead, he observed the confrontation below from above. He knew that it was absolutely impossible for the robot to casually destroy the local indigenous forces, and there might be some changes next. As expected, a palm stretched out from within that force, accompanied by a sigh. "How did you find me?" The one who sighed had an awe-inspiring tone in his voice. As soon as he made a sound, the situation changed and endless wind and waves rolled wildly. And judging from the horrified expressions of all the others in the entire force, it was obvious that they did not know that there was anyone in their own force who was stronger than the leader of the force. The robot also felt the amazing power of this force. It glanced at the direction of the walker, and then it seemed that someone had remotely controlled the robot's communication system. As soon as the person who walked out showed his head, his expression was shocked. "So that's it? I should have thought of it a long time ago. You can all find out about my hidden identity. There is a problem in this link." As expected, this battle between holders cannot be underestimated. The other party's expression became extremely ugly. In the next moment, the robot was inexplicably torn apart from the middle. Creak. The figure flashing with electric arcs fell to pieces, with a look of disbelief in the mechanical eyes. The communication voice was about to speak, but it stopped abruptly. "Since you know that I am a competitor, why did you only send such a robot? If it were me, at least 100 robots would start." He spoke slightly coldly, then paused in his words. Jia Yan was speechless inside the subspace. This guy has a crow's mouth. And what he said was right. It was Jia Yan who had already mastered the opponent's address against a competitor. Why not send out all-out conditions? A large number of robots appeared in the field of vision, causing the cold creature that walked out to stop talking and retreat back with an ugly expression. The robot, on the other hand, ran completely wild, following this cold creature. Jia Yan couldn't help but hide deeper in the subspace. He didn't want to make the same mistakes again. One Spider King was enough. The robot army obviously didn't notice him in the depths of subspace, and they were chasing the cold creature with varying amounts of quantity and quality. The battle between the two sides began, and Jia Yan also watched with relish another battle between the holders of neither himself nor the Spider King. The cold-colored creature hidden among the forces was actually a single-handed existence. This is what surprised Jia Yan the most. It turns out that there is more than one person like Lao Haitian. Because he had no power and was alone, he hid among the local forces. However, his identity was discovered by the enemy, and all the forces behind him were wiped out. It can be regarded as an unnecessary disaster. As for that cold-colored creature, he was being chased by more than 100 robots. He had no way to go to the sky and no way to go to the earth. It was very difficult. Being able to become a competitor means that his power of law has also made great achievements, especially at the door of life and death, which is very terrifying. Only when dealing with these lifeless robots, the rules of life and death seem to be less useful. But his other methods were also good, and he killed about 50 animals in 3 strokes, 5 divided by 2. These robots are not all as strong as the first one. The first robot has reached the level of an ordinary guru, but its power is only the first and second blows. In this way, it is already a stronger level among more than 100 robots. Among the groups that are chasing this cold creature, there are not many such robots, and it is often difficult to inflict a fatal blow on him. Will the other party give experience to this person like this? Jia Yan was inside the subspace and shook his head in disbelief, so he waited for the robot force's subsequent methods. You know, where the robot is used, even the real face has not been shown. Obviously that cold creature also knows this place. In his attacks and defenses, it was obvious that he was holding back, waiting for the opponent's true form to show up. These two. Jia Yan analyzed it and felt that he had seen a new world. If his prediction was correct, the cold-colored creatures would be alone, and the side-using robots might not have too many forces in this world. Otherwise, if so many robot methods are used in conjunction with a normal life master, the effects may be very different. It turns out that there are so many single-handed competitors. That's right. Not every creature master will definitely have powerful support behind him. Moreover, competitors who are powerful, like the Spider King and Chang Lai, often have people around them. There is a high probability that there are enemy spies or spies, and if you use it improperly, you may be doomed. Jia Yan nodded. This is normal thinking. If it were him, if he had known that he would participate in this so-called battle of holders, he might have chosen to fight alone. After all, trusting others is hard. It seems that there are probably a lot of experts like me. Jia Yan accidentally became the leader of the forces in the other world, but he still believed that he was on the side of the lonely camp. Seeing them use their true personal strength to compete, I couldn't help but feel envious. It's a pity that if it were him, under safe circumstances, he would definitely send a lot of Galaxy Chamber of Commerce energy to surround the opponent. Maybe he would win easily, but it wouldn't be such a thrilling feeling. Boom boom boom. Just when the robot was being beaten to pieces, a creature was knocked out of the arms of the last robot. The unexpected appearance made the other party unaware. The cold creature's chest received a real blow from the opponent. Puff. But his figure shattered like a bubble. The next moment, an intact figure appeared 1,000 kilometers away. The opponent's expression became even colder, and he directly swept towards the figure rushing out of the robot's body. Well done. The figure that rushed out from inside the robot had an expression like that of a heroic man. He turned around and blocked the cold-colored creature's roundhouse kick. With a hook of his foot, the cold-colored creature fell backwards as it stood unsteadily. Not only is this guy great at robotics, but his physical skills in face-to-face combat are also amazing. Jia Yan took a look and exclaimed. You must know that there are fewer and fewer masters who still use close combat physical skills in the lower levels of domain lords. They usually use their own skills to fight. But even so, it doesn't mean that everyone doesn't like close physical combat. In fact, just because it can't be done like that, most people will have a certain respect for masters who fight at close range. Such masters are usually very hard-working people, and close combat can be said to be very fast. Their daring to compare their lives with the enemy in this way shows that they are extremely high in both individual ability and determination. Good move. Jia Yan's expression changed slightly when he saw it, and the fire deep in his heart was almost ignited. Puff, bang, bang. The two engaged in a confrontation at close range, and the cold-colored creature was obviously at a disadvantage, so he wanted to regain the distance, but was often locked by the opponent and forced to withdraw, so he had to continue fighting in great pain. The opponent started a physical battle. This is called eating everything in one move. Physical skills will never go out of style. It's just that you need to compete with the opponent all the time, and you also need to have an understanding of moves and the ability to resolve the enemy's skills that are far beyond those of ordinary creatures. Buzz. The cold-colored creature finally seized an opportunity and transformed into bubbles. Puff. The master of physical skills punched the bubble, and when he was about to grab it around, the cold creature grabbed him out of space, but what he grabbed out was another bubble. In a flash, the cold-colored creature arrived thousands of kilometers away, panting. Obviously, The continuous flashing of bubbles just now also took a huge physical toll on him. However, being able to escape from the attacks of physical masters was already a victory in 1.5 moves for him. If he uses his own unique skills and it is difficult for the physical master to get closer, it means he has won. Give it to me. A bubble technique floated from the air, instantly trapping the physical skills master. It turned out that the cold creature had been entangled with the opponent at close range just now, and it was not in vain. It secretly arranged the technique under its feet. The shortcomings of taijutsu masters are in these areas. It is difficult for them to use specialized techniques to break through the opponent's techniques. He can only continue to use his close combat methods in the bubble in an attempt to break the bubble. However, this time he was disappointed. With each blow, the bubble was like an extremely solid cage that could not be broken in a short while. Snort. The physical arts master snorted coldly, and a large number of small robots flew out from his arms. These robots pounced on the bubble, and the bubble that even the masters of the lower realm masters could not open was on the verge of breaking in an instant. But obviously the cold-colored creature is not ready to give the opponent more time. This battle has lasted long enough. If it doesn't end, there may be new variables. If it attracts other competitors, it will be the biggest crisis. Oh no, it seems that there is already such a master in the subspace. Jia Yan said that he was just passing by, so you continue. If given the chance, of course, he would be really happy to settle the grievances between both parties and send them both to hell. In this way, not only did he achieve his first level mission, but he also received the inheritance of 2 competitors. He was even luckier than pie in the sky. But obviously, these 2 people will not give the other holders such an opportunity. Even during the confrontation, everyone was wary of their surroundings. Goo. In the bubble, a breath surged. You want to use poison to attack me? Are you wishful thinking that you can poison the bodies of physical arts masters like us? The physical skills master snorted coldly, and his body automatically closed all the pores. There was even a layer of light on the surface of the body, isolating everything from the outside world. However, the poison that surged up in the bubble actually broke through this layer of brilliance and directly invaded the body of the physical arts master. No, what kind of poison is this? The cold creature outside the bubble sneered. Do you think you have mastered my actions and I am completely unaware of it? In fact, I have already known your sneak attacks, as well as your origins, weaknesses, etc. This poison is prepared for you. Sneak attack me, you go die. Just listen to a large amount of blood unfolding in the bubble. The screams of the physical skills master were heard in the mist. Jia Yan was shocked by the horror of the toxin in the subspace. If it were him, if the other party used targeted means to control the subspace, it would only take a second or 2 for him to turn into scum. This is the terrible thing about exposing yourself and letting the enemy take advantage of your weakness. He couldn't help but stretched his neck and looked inside the bubble. Not long after, the majestic master of physical arts, a competitor who had reached the lower level of territory lord, and whose methods probably still had many unexplored characters, turned into blood mist, nourishing the bubble, making it even more dense, solid, and extremely weird. Your Excellency has been looking inside the subspace for so long. If you are hostile, please take action. Suddenly, the cold master's voice came to his ears. Jia Yan was startled and stepped back with an ugly expression. He wanted to do something. It's a pity that the other party is so vigilant and has discovered his existence long ago. That's right, the other party is hidden in this so-called local force. It's not just hiding. He must have taken the defense and vigilance methods to the extreme. He must also have a layout in the subspace, and the other party has long seen through it. However, Jia Yan did not retreat too far. The battle between the 2 competitors has come to an end, and he also wants to see what will happen next. He soon saw a heart-stopping scene. Suddenly, from the horizon, an extremely fast light flew from nowhere. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Dingdion Novel Network Mobile Version URL. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3408. This brilliance seems simple and unpretentious, but its speed is astonishing and abnormal, even faster than his flying speed within subspace. At such a speed, even Jia Yan wouldn't be able to escape if he were to attack. His expression changed wildly and he stared carefully. The light came to the face of the cold creature, and there seemed to be some sound, but Jia Yan was driven too far away and couldn't hear it at all. No matter how cold and arrogant the cold creature was, it could not help but reveal a little joy after the glorious voice came out. He reached into the light and grasped something. It was actually something similar. It's just smaller, but the refreshing feeling flickering on it is several times stronger. Jia Yan was extremely curious and couldn't help but get closer. The existence in the brilliance seemed to come only to reward the heart-like thing, and disappeared soon after. The cold-colored creature that had obtained the powerful thing watched the powerful thing leave with its eyes, and then turned to the direction of Jia Yan's space. Jia Yan felt a chill run through his body when he was struck by this line of sight. He thought that a bloody battle was about to begin, but unexpectedly saw the cold creature withdrawing at the same time and shooting towards the sky, without any appearance of interacting with Jia Yan. Jia Yan was surprised. This person has obviously felt where he is, why did he miss the opportunity to fight with him? Jia Yan thought for a moment and realized that the man left in a hurry and didn't take any of the loot with him. His eyes soon became happy. Although doing so would put him in danger, thanks to the convenience of subspace, he only needed to enter the subspace before he found someone else coming. So he broke out of the subspace, grabbed the body of the Taijutsu master who died in the battle, and threw it into the subspace. After looking back, I saw that he was indeed a person specializing in physical arts. After death, it can still resist the pressure of subspace to a certain extent. Jia Yan can preserve his body for a long time if he takes a little care of it. The corpse of a being of the same level is quite valuable. Moreover, he is also a master of physical skills. Even if Jia Yan does not use it for other purposes, but only uses it to absorb and digest the talent of the evolved beasts, the benefits will be huge. Since the cold-colored creature didn't want it, he just made use of it. And the ruined mountain gate. Jia Yan, with the idea that the more the merrier, ran into the almost empty mountain gate. Not long after, he flew out again with a dull expression and brought many useful things. There are 5 pieces of Taoist hearts, several other important treasures that he cannot identify, and some inherited items from the Taoist cult. The harvest can be said to be considerable. Entering the subspace, I found that the physical arts master was dead after all. His body had been under pressure in the subspace for a period of time and became a little soft. He quickly protected this person. With a sharp look on his face, he looked around again, realizing that he didn't miss anything, so he pulled away and walked away. He was not afraid that any clues would be noticed by other experts who came over. Not to mention his identity, no one here probably knows it. Even if they knew that he was the president of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, for a while, they would at most think that he felt the movement of strong men fighting and came to take advantage of them. Who would have thought he was also a competitor? Jia Yan recalled some things first. The previous picture. The powerful man chasing stars and chasing the moon flew from the sky and gave him something, and then the cold master left. He recalled that at the last moment, the cold master glanced at his area without concealment. If I remember correctly, it seems that I have exposed my subdimensional skills in front of several competitors. This is a pretty serious problem. His subspace concealment ability is not very useful in the eyes of competitors. These are probably the existences that have entered the competition among competitors. They are all top masters in the same level. Even if their combat power is not enough, they must have understood the so-called and the extra rules give them magical skills. Jia Yan said in his heart. After stepping into these competitors, he realized that Hai Tiancheng did not deceive me. His own abilities, knowledge, etc. are not enough to enter this level. Not talking about combat power, just talking about these auxiliary skills and vision, etc., they are all not equal to others. No wonder many people, including Hai Tian, do not think that he is the holder, let alone the level of holder. Tu Yung's fault. He quickly dismissed the idea. The Spider King must have his own plan, and he may have been included in it. As for the other participants, not to mention, if Jia Yan finds another one, he will be directly regarded as the target of killing and promotion if he appears in front of the other party. In the eyes of other participants, such a young opponent is probably not much more unpalatable than Tang Monk's meat. With a headache, he soared into the subspace with the physical body of a master of physical arts and numerous trophies. Soon I randomly found an uninhabited island, crashed into one of the islands, and then started another round of seclusion and paying attention to the outside world. Several encounters with competitors gave him the idea of not participating in these confrontations for the time being. He needs to continue to increase his understanding of the relevant combat rules, and also know more about the abilities of others, otherwise he will rush out in a daze, seemingly relying on subdimensional abilities to survive every time, but the dangers are terrifying. Maybe it will perish if it comes again. But I can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. He knew the general rules and the mission was very long. It takes 100 or even hundreds of years at a time. In the past, there was even a long competition time of 1,000 years. Such a long time is longer than Jia Yan's entire lifespan, so he doesn't need to be too anxious. Maybe the last one will be dragged out, and by then he will have changed his appearance and will no longer be a fool. Just when he decided to hide himself and continue to be a bystander who chose the opportunity to act, his screams were soon heard from the island. Jia Yan's mouth parts felt severely corroded, and he even experienced a lot of burning pain in his abdomen. The corpse of a physical arts master who had been dealt with several times was at his feet. As an evolved beast with the ability to devour, he couldn't help but taste the corpse of this top physical arts master. It was okay at first, he experienced an unparalleled taste, and even his own physical body improved greatly in view of the general environment. But the problem arises not long after feeling happy. The toxin that poisoned the physical arts master could still cause great harm to him after such a long time, and even after Jia Yan used various methods to remove the toxin. You must know that in addition to the above methods, he himself is an evolved beast, with natural resistance to toxins and the like. Otherwise, Jia Yan in the past would put everything into his mouth. Because of his natural resistance to toxins, he even swallowed asteroids. But the poison in this physical skills master shocked him. Even evolved beasts like him have been tricked. Enduring the discomfort, he crawled in the cave. It took about a month before he fully recovered with fear in his eyes. He looked at the physical master's mutilated body with fear in his eyes, not daring to take any more chances with him. But there is still no thought of discarding it. The corpse of such a master, even if he doesn't use it himself, takes it back to the technical department for research, or simply uses it as a resource, the value is sky high. Time passed quickly in his retreat. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has never cut off contact with Jia Yan. The actions of all members of Waxiang Recycling did not stop, and everything was under her command in an orderly manner. Not even a mistake occurred. The dynasty even opened the door for convenience. You must know that after solving the foreign enemies, the entire dynasty faced the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce at its peak. Even the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has been vaguely becoming an existence like the Supreme Emperor since then. Although the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has stated several times that it does not mean that, the dynasty has unilaterally regarded him as a Shangfang sword hanging above its head. If it does not go well, it will fall down and kill them. Now the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce has chosen to retreat inexplicably. Some people think that they are playing tricks, some people think that the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is interested, and some people think that they are outsiders who want to reply to the stars. In short, the departure of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce allowed the dynasty to take back all the territory in the region. Naturally, he was extremely happy, and he cooperated with the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce's overall shrinking strategy. However, the opposition within the Chamber of Commerce has never stopped. Especially the top executives who have invested a lot of money. After Jia Yan heard this, he smiled indifferently. Huaxiang also knew that this great master definitely didn't care about the ordinary lower-level territory lords. But the problem is that others don't know. There is also a huge gap between the lower ranks of territory lords. This tells the ignorant people outside that they cannot understand. When Jia Yan came to the trade area to form a force under the name of a master of the lower-level domain lords, wasn't he regarded by many surrounding forces as a being who was stronger than the senior domain lords? In the area surrounding the great spiritual domain, no one knows what level the domain lord is at the lower level. Then it would be even more impossible to understand the huge differences between the lower levels of domain lords. Jia Yan asked. Huaxiang said a little shyly. Very normal. She is just an existence that has been promoted to the lower level of domain lord for less than 100 years. And she is not Jia Yan. It has been 100 years since she was first promoted to the lower level of territory lord. For ordinary people of the same level, it can be said that she has not even fully passed the initial burst of strength. That is to say, she and the newly promoted person are probably evenly matched, and even if they win, it will only be a miserable victory. That will not serve as a deterrent. It was not convenient for Jia Yan to do it himself. There are two strong enough avatars. If they can compete with the lower level of the territory lord, there are conditions. The use of foreign objects also involves luck. If you are unlucky and the enemy you encounter happens to be able to restrain them, your clone might be defeated miserably. After all, there isn't much that can be done against the newcomer for the time being. Jia Yan was a little helpless. In the middle of the night, a beautiful giant mosquito looked up at the night sky in the other world. Dots of subspace cracks glowed, looking like a starry sky. It has a unique flavor. The surging sea behind us laps at the islands and reefs from time to time. There are still living things on the island, and the chirping of some kind of insect can be heard from time to time, but disappears in the blink of an eye. Every living being in existence is not useless. Jia Yan breathed out. The poisonous feeling in his mouth was still there, making him uncomfortable all the time. A few months later, even if the Spider King paid a visit, he would not let the other party see that he was too anxious. After Jia Yan planned his itinerary, he soared into the sky. Return the way you came. The large island area where Spider King is located is very close to the island reef he was on before. When Jia Yan arrived at the big island, he was slightly stunned. I saw that the land of power was caught in a huge battle. The shouts of killing shook the sky. The vast swathes of native creatures may not even know the reason why they are fighting, so they are confused and fighting with the enemy. There are countless warships docked at the edge of the island. Jia Yan calmed down. Distinguisher. He ignored the fighting below and rushed directly to the center of the besieged force. Spider King Zheng Laoshen was reading the information in the central hall. Suddenly, he looked up at the sky. He laughed. Please remember the first domain name of this book. Dingdian Novel Network Mobile Version URL. Reborn as an Interstellar Giant Mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3409. /U0026LT, -go-/U0026GT. Under the sky with solitary clouds. Two figures were flying in the vast and boundless inner world. Even if it's just returning to his sect, it's still a long road. You mean those attackers? Haha, As you can see, Chiang Lai's people found my whereabouts a few days ago. In fact, this is normal. Even the person I sent beside him has switched sides and revealed the power I cultivated. It's natural to go out. The Spider King sneered at himself. In fact, things are far from as simple as he said. Even though he was one of his own, the competitor force he ran was not revealed to the spies over there. However, the other party had already planned to defect and found out the address of this place through others. Otherwise, he would not have brought Jia Yan to this power in the first place. Fortunately, everything had room for change because of Jia Yan's subspace flight speed. They were ready for defense, and the war turned from a surprise attack to the current war of attrition. It seems that your force's defense is quite difficult. I wonder if it will affect our cooperation. Jia Yan said straight to the point. He doesn't care about the reasons. Just results. If the other party can't bear Chiang Lai's offensive, Jia Yan's cooperation with the other party will be a big question mark. Of course, the cooperation will continue, and the flaws are not hidden. In fact, in the other party's general attack a few days ago, although we also injured several people, Chiang Lai and his capable generals were severely damaged. If you and I take action now, it will be a good time. Spider King said calmly. Hey, if you could solve it by yourself, you would have made a decision long ago. Why wait for me to come? Jia Yan sneered. He didn't believe that the other party had such a spirit of contract. Chiang Lai came to the door. When there was a chance to kill him, they still wanted to let him go and wait for him to solve it. It's possible that he dug a hole for himself to jump out of. He finally understood that this so-called competition among competitors was just a game of intrigue. He is a young man, and if he doesn't act cautiously in a game like this, he will probably be swallowed up by these old guys. President Jia Yan may not believe it, but our cooperation must continue. Otherwise, to show our sincerity, why not start with the original Galaxy Chamber of Commerce trade? Discuss trade with me. Jia Yan was stunned. There was a feeling that there was going to be a bloody storm just now, but it suddenly stopped. But after thinking about it, if the two sides want to build a relatively trusting relationship, it may not be a big problem to start with trade. I think Chiang Lai also knows my identity. If you trade with our Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, you will have to escort the people yourself. It's absolutely no problem. I've also heard about the recent shrinkage trend of your Chamber of Commerce. Spider King and Jia Yan were talking, and both of them seemed to open their hearts. But some of the information revealed by each made the other party feel a little depressed. Spider King inquired about a lot of information about the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce. He didn't know much about the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce a few months ago, which shows how hard the other party has worked. Jia Yan, on the other hand, expressed a lot of understanding of the Spider King's power, and at the same time made great progress in the battle against the competitors, causing the Spider King to sigh from time to time. Young people learn quickly. But he was very wary. Jia Yan had inexplicably gained so much knowledge and experience. Could it be that he had come into contact with other competitors? You must know that he has analyzed that Jia Yan probably got the ticket by accident and didn't know much about the competition process. In these few months, he actually understood a lot. After testing each other, the two sides talked more in depth. The battle in the distance felt like an after-dinner movie, and even the Spider King himself didn't seem to care much. In his words, the people on the front line are all strong indigenous people he trained in this other world. It doesn't matter how many deaths there are. Your Excellency Jia Yan, could you please take a guess at your current state of mind? It seems that you are no longer so anxious about the competition. Spider King felt Jia Yan's mood for a long time, and finally couldn't help but ask. Can you tell? Jia Yan was stunned when he heard this. He did become less anxious. Because the innate conditions are not as good as others, if you are anxious, you may get involved in this so-called competition. Even if he doesn't stand out through the competition in the other world and become a so-called powerful person, his lifespan is still very long, and he might have a chance until the next competition starts. Of course, that would require a turtle-like lifespan. Tens of thousands of years of life and his evolved beast body might actually be possible. So he was not in a hurry. Once he was in a hurry, all his shortcomings would be invisible in the eyes of these experienced masters. When they were exploited, they would die in pieces without knowing how. And this kind of Buddhist mentality is quite useful when used. For example, Spider King, his ally, was getting a little anxious while chatting. Because Jia Yan is not in a hurry, they are. They really want to compete to become powerful. If you lose this opportunity, you will never have another chance in your life. Achieving greatness by yourself is much more difficult than being promoted through rules in the other world. President Jia Yan, we are allies. Didn't we sign so many agreements last time? You can't just stop playing and abandon me. The Spider King smiled bitterly. He didn't know Jia Yan's mood. I just don't want to be manipulated by them, but even if I know Jia Yan's mentality, I have to beg the other party. Chang Lai's offensive seemed to be resisted by Gu Jingbuobo, but at the same time, his identity was known to many nearby competitors. It was like Chang Lai himself hiding in the dark and firing a shot in the direction of the Spider King. No one in the dark forest would pay attention to the shooter, but everyone would see the character who was shot. Even though Chang Lai was fighting with him right now, there might be countless participants secretly gearing up to give him a thunderous blow. Senior Spider King, please don't say that. I'm not a treacherous person. It's just that the things you mentioned are too radical. I don't want to risk myself. There is no benefit, let Jia Yan show his talents. Who are you lying to? Jia Yan said that he is less passionate and impulsive now. A few months had passed, and it was time for this hot-blooded young man to calm down. His previous impulses were slapped in the face by major competitors, so he didn't dare to be so aggressive anymore. Nothing is left after death. Are you radical? President Jia Yan, we can't be called radical. You don't know. I have information from intelligence sources that since the beginning of the rules battle, there have been more than a dozen nearby competitors who have won and lost. Maybe more than half of the winners and losers on the mainland have already been decided. If you and I can't enter the next round as soon as possible, we won't have much chance if we fall behind every step of the way. Why is it better to get to the next round earlier? I don't believe there is such a thing. Jia Yan shook his head and sneered again. He said he would no longer be led by the other party's remarks. The rest time is longer, and the research time on the remaining opponents is also longer. For example, some nearby contender masters who have won the battle can hide in the dark and wait for me after getting information about the confrontation on my side. Observe and learn our weaknesses. If we enter the later competition in the future, they will be able to use these weaknesses to attack us. Do you still think there is no benefit? The Spider King taught tirelessly. Unexpectedly, no matter what he said, Jia Yan was stubborn and refused to let go. Reveal your personal information? Sorry, his information is probably like a leak now, and countless people know it. Because he was never ready to be a contender in the first place. As the president of a chamber of commerce, he made half of the mainland's coastal areas aware of the existence of such a chamber of commerce. Now he has turned into a competitor. When he says the word Jia Yan, everyone is deeply impressed by him. He is now a broken man. What can you do to me? Okay, Your Excellency Jia Yan, I understand what you mean. If you want any benefits, you can bring them up. Suddenly the Spider King shook his head and sighed. It seems that Jia Yan is no longer controlled by words. Because this young man expressed disbelief no matter what he said. It's no longer a matter of experience or lack of experience, it's simply a matter of faulty ears. Your Excellency Spider King is really serious. I wish I had said this earlier. Come on, I don't want to do anything else for now. Please tell me everything you know about this competitor. Try to be as detailed as possible. Otherwise, I will see if I can continue to be in alliance with you depending on the situation. The Spider King's face darkened. These competitors of the ancient forces, precisely because of their huge knowledge base, can gain greater opportunities in this competition. Now he is expected to tell the truth to another competitor because of an unfounded alliance. To be honest, he was a little reluctant. But he looked at Jia Yan. He wavered again. Because for this young master, whether he said it or not seemed to have little impact. The opponent's power has long been exposed, and I believe it won't be long before some competitors who really can't find a target to kill will set their sights on Jia Yan. He is like hotcakes, and has been approached by many smelling sharks. He is still safe and sound just because Jia Yan is alone and it is difficult for others to find his true identity. In fact, Spider King does not have Xiaojuju in his heart. It's just that he has a lot of confidence in himself and thinks that even if he doesn't kill Jia Yan or Chang Lai, he can easily kill another competitor and advance to the next round. As for the young man in front of me who has already become a Colander, is there anything to lose by telling him the information? No. Not to mention other people, even he, who was allied with Jia Yan, never believed that Jia Yan could win the final victory. Telling the information is just to let this young man have more gaming experience and survive in the game longer. At most, it only gives him a small chance of surviving when he is defeated. As an ally, this is enough justice. Okay. The Spider King finally nodded through gritted teeth. It seemed as if some huge concession had been made. Jia Yan, on the other hand, was overjoyed and thanked him quickly regardless of whether the other party had paid anything. Both sides were bathed in a large number of shouts of killing, while observing the fighting process outside, while talking about it. 2 full days passed. Jia Yan asked questions from time to time, and Spider King patiently answered them. The process finally came to an end. Sorry, if you ask so deeply, the following question is about other prices. After all, this involves core secrets. We and other established forces always want to have an advantage. Finally, under Jia Yan's questioning as if to break the casserole, Spider King was asked about the core area and refused to reveal even a single trace. Thank you. Having said so much is enough. Jia Yan stood up solemnly and thanked his ally sincerely. Really helpful. Perhaps the biggest benefit is that he has participated in this so-called competition for so long. Otherwise, if he continues to act in this rules competition in the same stupid way as before, he will soon die here, or the lucky ones will be eliminated alive. There is not even a slight chance of promotion. Now. But it was different. After learning a lot of secrets of the big forces, he had half a chance. Although 0.5% is not much, if you add it up bit by bit, one day he will have the same opportunities as others, or even surpass them. Your Excellency Jia Yan, can you talk about our cooperation now? Spider King calmly accepted Jia Yan's bow. Because what he paid was worth it. You must know that in addition to some very core secrets, he has already handed over a summary of his own force's participation in this so-called rules competition several times. This is the accumulation of tens of thousands of years. If Jia Yan can't bear even one bow, it would be too much. Cooperate. He nodded solemnly. But during the subsequent in-depth communication and negotiation between the two fell into an extremely tit-for-tat quarrel. The Spider King naturally requires greater efforts from Jia Yan. In addition to helping him deal with Chang Lai, he also has to help him obtain the lives of other competitors in order to advance. But Jia Yan insisted that the content of their original negotiation was to help him defeat Chang Lai. The two had a heated exchange of words and finally found a compromise plan. Before killing Chang Lai, Jia Yan was sitting within the so-called Spider King's forces, ensuring that he could assist at critical moments. Later, it was found that Jia Yan had to do it himself to kill Chang Lai, thus gaining the qualification for promotion. But after being promoted, Jia Yan was still able to stay with the Spider King to assist him. Later, he had to help the Spider King fight against other participants until the Spider King killed his target. However, during this period, Spider King will help Jia Yan prepare for the next round of rules competition. This is their general condition. And it's all about the core. Other small details, to be honest, are nothing to them. We are all experts, and we don't bother to pay attention to details. What's more, this test only tests the integrity of both parties. If you are really not honest enough, no matter how many agreements you sign, they will all be useless paper. I don't bother to do it, not to mention that this test only tests the integrity of both parties. If you are really not honest enough, no matter how many agreements you sign, they will all be useless. /U0026LT //U0026GT, remember the website address, for easy reading next time, or enter in Baidu to enter the site. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3410. /U0026LT, -go /U0026GT. As the crown prince of the forces in his hometown star domain, Chang Lai has been developing smoothly in his hometown. However, in this so-called battle for the path of the promoted people, they were repeatedly blocked by a person of the same level. That is the Spider King, who is known as the most powerful domain lord in his hometown. Report. The Spider King led Jia Yan to fight on the front line, causing heavy casualties to our army. Jia Yan also appeared? Where are they now? The two of them seemed to have a short-lived appearance. They killed a group of our masters on the front line and then left. After Chang Lai learned the information, he sat back on the chair with a cold expression. He knew that the current situation was making things difficult for him, the prince who had always been successful. If I can kill these two people, my grandfather will no longer say that I am a flower in the greenhouse, right? Not only did he have no intention of retreating, on the contrary, he developed a huge fighting spirit. In their family, their grandfather has always been revered as a mighty, but he had already vowed early on that he would reach the level of his grandfather, a man with two powers. But Grandpa Zio had previously commented on his temperament as a hothouse flower. It made many people chuckle after hearing it. But he knew that this statement was correct. If Grandpa Zio hadn't pointed out that the confidant was a spy planted by the Spider King, he might have died at the hands of the Spider King during the last battle on the island. I want to prove to them that I am not the prince who can only be pampered. Chang Lai's eyes became solemn. Although he is a prince, his combat power and wisdom are not low. Many events since his birth have proven that he is no idiot. But all this is offset by the huge halo of identity. Unless he kills the Spider King this time, becomes invincible and reaches the top of the competition between competitors, and becomes an existence that is no different from his grandfather, then the entire tribe will recognize him. The first step is to kill the Spider King. That Jia Yan seems to be just a stumbling block. Unfortunately, he chose the wrong side. Even if it is just a pebble, I will kick it away. Chang Lai's eyes became sharp. Chang Lai is afraid that he will be furious. Above the ocean, Jia Yan was suspended in the sky alone. The big island behind him has already receded. He kept staring behind him to see if the other party would send some pursuers. If the number of people chasing him is large, he can choose to retreat. If the number of people is small or the strength is insufficient, he can completely eat them. In view of the general environment, it's a pity that people are not that stupid. I'm afraid Chang Lai is not in the army either, but is remotely controlling the war on a nearby island. He regretfully glanced at the sea behind him a few more times, and left in shock without any nostalgia. The Spider King had already said goodbye to him. In fact, his purpose in coming to this island is by no means as simple as joining forces with the Spider King to fight Chang Lai. He didn't know that Chang Lai was coming. In fact, he came to ask for information. Now it can be said to be a full harvest. Not only did I learn many secrets about the battle between competitors, but I also gained a grasp of the overall trend. Jia Yan felt that the trip was worthwhile. Previously, he joined the so-called competition with passion. But after getting started, he didn't understand anything like a headless fly. Especially after encountering several competitors and discovering that Jia Yan could push them past them without relying on Jia Yan's strength, he suddenly fell into a dilemma on this matter. The forced recommendation in the past will definitely not work anymore. So he started collecting information. Fortunately, in order to gain his ally, the Spider King did not choose to turn him away. Say what came should be well-known information, but it was crucial to Jia Yan. At least in terms of the knowledge system, he is no longer blind. I found an uninhabited area on the mainland near the coast and headed straight into it. There was no intelligent life around, so he opened the subspace and took out various items from it. Several objects of enlightenment, a few corpses of strong men, some materials containing good energy, etc. His subspace power is enough for him to carry some items in the subspace of the other world to ensure that they do not turn into ashes in the subspace. Rule: take out part of the body of the physical arts master who witnessed his death in battle. He was glad he hadn't swallowed it whole earlier. Now looking at some of the artistic conception on it, I can't help but feel it in deep thought. The objects of perception were also thrown into the corpses. Each race has a different way of feeling and playing rules, and it may even be different for everyone. He's trying what works best for him. If it hadn't been for the Spider King's advice, these masters, who Jia Yan had never known to die so far, would have carried rules and insights that were useful to him. Of course, the Spider King probably never thought that Jia Yan, a stupid young man, would actually obtain the corpse of a competitor. Is this something that a little guy who knows nothing can get? Goo goo. In the air, bursts of strange aroma are wafting. From time to time, Jia Yan seemed to swallow something from somewhere in the void. The air from all directions seemed to be attracted by something, converging towards this area from time to time. His mouth parts swallowed air from time to time, and occasionally burped. It's hard to absorb anything. After a moment, Jia Yan couldn't help but let out a long, airy burp, and his compound eyes flashed. He did feel something from the operation just now. But from the corpse of the physical arts master, he did not absorb the power of rules on a large scale. According to the Spider King, the competitors in the first realm have long been locked in the power of rules by several high-level masters. Each of the dead competitors will have the rules of life and death left in their bodies. After other participants take advantage of it, they will have a high probability of getting about 1/10 of the rule power they had during their lifetime, which is one of the huge benefits of the entire competition. Don't underestimate the power of 1/10 of the rules. For example, Jia Yan, he has recently created the power of life and death rules by striking while the iron is hot, or it should be said that he rushed the duck to the shelves. Compared to all the contestants, he is probably the one who understands the rules the least. If one obtains the rules of life and death for any one person, his understanding of the rules may increase several times out of thin air. After all, even if it's 1/10, it's something that a top player has understood for who knows how many years. However, Jia Yan didn't know what to do. When I was enlightened just now, I absorbed more things. These are the things of enlightenment. Several of the objects of enlightenment that Jia Yan preserved seemed to have lost their spirituality. The Spider King told him that when absorbing the corpses of other contestants, it is best to have an object of consciousness as an aid, as there is a high probability that the utilization rate of the corpses will be greatly improved. But after trying it, Jia Yan found that it didn't work. Either Spider King lied to him, or this method is only applicable to Spider King and most other masters, but not to Jia Yan. It must be the latter possibility. The Spider King will not deceive me on this point. The Spider King didn't know that Jia Yan now had a corpse in his hand. He's not in a hurry. With the corpse in hand, there is always a way to learn how to extract the power of rules from it. He still has a lot of time. After the power of the rules increases dramatically, his strength will probably be further improved. This is excellent news for Jia Yan. The one whom the guy who stole the body probably hates me to death. Jia Yan thought that the master didn't bother to take away the enemy's corpse. However, looking back now, he had to give up the corpse because he was injured. If he tried to take the corpse away again, there was a chance that competitors hiding in the subspace would kill him. Maybe the other party wouldn't expect that Jia Yan didn't even know the function of the corpse. De Gen is the most stupid one among this competition. The days of dormant cultivation passed quickly. On the other side of the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, they did not stop. When Jia Yan and the Spider King started a real cooperation with each other openly and honestly, the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce also temporarily jumped on each other's carriage. Soon, diplomatic envoys from the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce were stationed in the other party's forces. Moreover, Jia Yan deliberately opened the door to convenience and pulled a group of people from the Milky Way galaxy who were supposed to return to the main island, and went to the big island to establish a branch. This incident made Spider King Longian very happy. The Galaxy Chamber of Commerce is said to be shrinking. However, their islands showed differences, indicating that the alliance between the two was unbreakable. At least at this stage. Jia Yan also broke off contact with Spider King. Since the last two people attacked together, Chang Lai not only stopped the offensive, but also pulled the entire army to a nearby island outside the big island, and the two sides faced off. Jia Yan's attack not only caused temporary casualties to Chang Lejun, but also brought some kind of shock. You know, there are actually not too many cases where competitors join forces. Even if they join forces, it will be more temporary. Chang Lai originally believed that the last time Jia Yan and Spider King joined forces was a last resort in a critical situation. Unexpectedly, Chang Lai was still getting along with Jia Yan after such a long time. As a result, one has to wonder whether the two have really become allies in the conventional sense. Those are two competitors. Even if it is known from the intelligence that Jia Yan, this competitor, is a fledgling competitor who knows nothing, his strength and the energy to control the power behind him are still there. In this way, Chang Lai is equal to 1 versus 2. Becoming a little confused. Therefore, the Spider King's life has been getting better recently, and with the support of the maritime trade line specially brought in by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the entire force seems to be glowing with a second spring. He was naturally very happy, and his attitude toward Jia Yan became gentle. After communicating several times, Jia Yan refused to tell the other party the island where he was retreating. Chang Lai originally believed that the last time Jia Yan and Spider King joined forces was a last resort in a critical situation. Unexpectedly, Chang Lai was still getting along with Jia Yan after such a long time. As a result, one has to wonder whether the two have really become allies in the conventional sense. Those are two competitors. Even if it is known from the intelligence that Jia Yan, this competitor, is a fledgling competitor who knows nothing, his strength and the energy to control the power behind him are still there. In this way, Chang Lai is equal to 1 versus 2. Becoming a little confused. Therefore, the Spider King's life has been getting better recently, and with the support of the maritime trade line specially brought in by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the entire force seems to be glowing with a second spring. He was naturally very happy, and his attitude toward Jia Yan became gentle. After communicating several times, Jia Yan refused to tell the other party the island where he was retreating. Chang Lai originally believed that the last time Jia Yan and Spider King joined forces was a last resort in a critical situation. Unexpectedly, Chang Lai was still getting along with Jia Yan after such a long time. As a result, one has to wonder whether the two have really become allies in the conventional sense. Those are two competitors. Even if it is known from the intelligence that Jia Yan, this competitor, is a fledgling competitor who knows nothing, his strength and the energy to control the power behind him are still there. New. In this way, Chang Lai is equal to 1 versus 2. Becoming a little confused. Therefore, the Spider King's life has been getting better recently, and with the support of the maritime trade line specially brought in by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the entire force seems to be glowing with a second spring. He was naturally very happy, and his attitude toward Jia Yan became gentle. After communicating several times, Jia Yan refused to tell the other party the island where he was retreating. Chang Lai originally believed that the last time Jia Yan and Spider King joined forces was a last resort in a critical situation. Unexpectedly, Chang Lai was still getting along with Jia Yan after such a long time. As a result, one has to wonder whether the two have really become allies in the conventional sense. Those are two competitors. Even if it is known from the intelligence that Jia Yan, this competitor, is a fledgling competitor who knows nothing, his strength and the energy to control the power behind him are still there. In this way, Chang Lai is equal to 1 versus 2. Becoming a little confused. Therefore, the Spider King's life has been getting better recently, and with the support of the maritime trade line specially brought in by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the entire force seems to be glowing with a second spring. He was naturally very happy, and his attitude toward Jia Yan became gentle. After communicating several times, Jia Yan refused to tell the other party the island where he was retreating. Chang Lai originally believed that the last time Jia Yan and Spider King joined forces was a last resort in a critical situation. Unexpectedly, Chang Lai was still getting along with Jia Yan after such a long time. As a result, looking for the book M makes people wonder whether the two have really become allies in the conventional sense. Those are two competitors. Even if it is known from the intelligence that Jia Yan, this competitor, is a fledgling competitor who knows nothing, his strength and the energy to control the power behind him are still there. In this way, Chang Lai is equal to 1 versus 2. Becoming a little confused. Therefore, the Spider King's life has been getting better recently, and with the support of the maritime trade line specially brought in by the Galaxy Chamber of Commerce, the entire force seems to be glowing with a second spring. He was naturally very happy, and his attitude toward Jia Yan became gentle. After communicating several times, Jia Yan refused to tell the other party about himself. /U0026LT /U0026GT, remember the website address, for easy reading next time, or enter in Baidu to enter the site. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3411. Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky. The novel is free to read, please bookmark Yuki Novels. Jia Yan, who was born on the Earth, naturally does not think that the Earth is a disaster star. But he never expected that the Earth seemed to always give him good news. This time, he brought something to understand the rules, which greatly improved his death rules. The rule of death is an extremely difficult rule to understand, and Jia Yan is weak at this point. He is too young, and his strong vitality makes it easier to understand the rules of life. However, it is precisely because he does not have enough experience of death that he has been stuck on the rules of death for a long time. Now the two go hand in hand. It cannot be said that he has caught up with the first echelon, but compared with himself, the improvement is obvious. Above the sky, giant mosquitoes buzzed and flew. Large swaths of ocean mist passed by in a blink of an eye. A super-huge island appeared in front of us. He hovered in mid-air and sent out his thoughts. Not long after, a confused figure flew up from the island, while looking at the giant mosquito figure in the sky. "Jia Yan, you want to compete with me for no reason?" The Spider King was surprised. This Jia Yan has been in seclusion to avoid his demands on Jia Yan's alliance affairs. Now that the Spider King is almost used to it, Jia Yan appears again without anyone noticing, saying that he wants to compete with him. The Spider King felt that this guy seemed to have grown up a bit, but he was a little too arrogant to fight against him. He is the first domain master in the local galaxy cluster. The giant mosquito creature in front of him has long experienced the opponent's strength. Being able to grow to the current level at this age can be said to be quite outstanding in view of the general environment. But to be compared with the older generation at the same level is a bit exaggerated. So he was surprised. "That's right, come on." With that said, Jia Yan didn't give the opponent a chance to deny it, and Tutu would attack like a sheep. "Okay, since you are so excited, I will accompany you for once." Spider King's eyes flashed and he agreed abruptly. He also wanted to weigh the ability of this ally, or was it possible that the Jia Yan he knew back then was still hiding his strength? You must know that at the lower level of Domain Lord's strength, it is normal to hide one's strength. But it is a bit creepy for a young man to dare to hide his strength in the life and death crisis he encountered before. Puff. A contest between the two sides. This time it was just a sheep attack, without any attribute blessings, etc. Therefore, in a simple collision, the Spider King gained a small advantage in the head-on confrontation. But that doesn't mean anything. Both of them became interested, and for a moment the color of the world changed, and the situation turned upside down. During the earth-shattering contest between the two sides, the clouds were blown away. Although the contest between two seemingly small creatures, it caused fluctuations that most life forms in the entire world could not imagine. Today's inner world is gradually no longer discriminating against outsiders. Because the major competitors began to exert their strength, every corner of the world seemed to be occupied by outsiders. They, a group of outsider masters who used to be inconspicuous, actually led the entire world in a short period of time. The storm in the world. A large number of forces and sects have read from ancient books the reasons for the destruction caused by outsiders. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3412. Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky. The novel is free to read, please bookmark Yuki Novels. The sun sets. In other words, the largest crack in subspace receded and turned into a sunset scene. The two figures separated in the sunset. Jia Yan, don't die at the forefront of the competition. The next battle of rules is time. If you can't survive it, I will never see your ally, so get ready. Huh? Jia Yan was slightly startled, then nodded and said, "Thank you for reminding me. I owe you a favor. Contact me when Chang Lai shows up." Watching Jia Yan turn around and leave, the Spider King fell into the sky with an expressionless expression. "My lord, is he worthy of your devotion?" A subordinate came forward and said somewhat doubtfully. He also saw Jia Yan's performance. He is very talented and very strong, but not to the level that the adults in his family would invest without any regard for reward. The Spider King cast a sidelong glance at this man, shook his head, and looked at the back of the giant mosquito that rushed into the subspace and disappeared. "You don't understand. Guys like this have appeared in several competitions. Each of them performed amazingly, and two of them even won the final victory. Do you know? In one of them, there was even only 1-2 final winners, and this is one of them. Do you think he is worth my investment?" The visitor looked shocked. However, he still said stiffly, "But is he really the kind of genius you think? Whether it is yes or no, it doesn't matter anymore. I have friends and acquaintance with him. In this way, he and I are destined to have in-depth contact. Do you think I can't invest in him? The subordinate shook his head slightly, and then retreated with a sigh. The friendly attitude between the Spider King and Jia Yan was seen by all the subordinates in the force. Some people are sure, some are against it. As a centrist, he has always guessed the thoughts of his leader. Now it seems that the leader has a very positive attitude towards Jia Yan. He wants to step back and pass this information to everyone. A good force needs a middle bridge, and he is such an existence. The Spider King's attitude towards me has obviously changed. Did my progress impress him? Or is it something else? Jia Yan was flying in the subspace with a very relaxed expression. From the Spider King's side, I got a lot of things. What I learned is immeasurable. Especially the words about the next rule, time, made him both surprised and looking forward to it. The so-called time rules are something that almost all competitors don't understand much. The difference between them is nothing more than the difference in experience and length of survival. In terms of the rules of life and death, Jia Yan was already far behind, and in terms of the rules of time, he was certainly not as far behind as he is now. I can't be too ambitious. I haven't passed the first level yet, so it's unrealistic to think about the second level. Jia Yan raised his eyes and looked around. Speaking of which, Chang Lai not only evacuated the army, but also took away the surveillance team. Just thinking about it, Jia Yan wanted to slap himself twice. The subspace seemed to be filled with cement. When he wanted to move, he felt unable to move. Who? He looked around alertly. Soon a figure emerged from the depths of subspace. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3413. Rebirth of the Giant Mosquito in the Starry Sky. The novel is free to read. Please bookmark Yuki Novels. With such a terrifying attack, he thought that the young master in front of him would have his feet cut off with a single slash. Unexpectedly, only a small part was cut open. Those feet are a bit too hard. Both of them suddenly realized that the other party was not as simple as they thought. Come back quickly. The expressions of Chang Lai and Chang Lai on the other side changed. Like a person struggling in water. They are not subspace creatures and cannot survive independently in the subspace of the other world for long. Jia Yan and the opponent who had been struck by the thunder looked at each other, and the opponent returned to his original position with stern eyes, and a brainwave power that belonged only to him was released, covering Chang Lai and the two. The two of them returned to their original state. Jia Yan narrowed his eyes. Are the three of you still fighting? Your weaknesses are obvious. His meaning is simple. If Jia Yan can't be killed with one strike, I'm afraid it will be too difficult to surround and kill him with the condition of the three opponents. After all, there is only one subdimensional creature among the three. The three of them looked at each other unwillingly. Immediately they all retreated. At the same time, Chang Lai said with a dull look, Jia Yan, the Spider King can become the first domain master in our galaxy cluster, not only because of his allies, but also because of his ruthlessness. An alliance with him will not have good results. Take care of yourself. Then you don't need to worry too much. Jia Yan's ancient well is unwavering. If you can't kill them, just divide them verbally, right? Looking at the three people who failed to hit the thunderbolt attack and left directly, a hint of fear appeared in his heart. Were the three weak just now? He is not weak. If he had not competed with the Spider King to improve his understanding of the rules, he would probably have suffered. However, Jia Yan's promotion was unexpected. After they returned without success, their evaluation of Jia Yan's strength will surely rise to a higher level in the future. Next time they come to attack him, they may not be so easy to deal with. But their primary enemy is the Spider King. Since they can surround and kill me like this, it must not be difficult to kill the Spider King. Instead of that, why bother to go to all the trouble to surround and kill me? The hatred between them and me is not as big as the Spider King. You should be as big as a king. Of course, you still have to be more vigilant when traveling in the future. Otherwise, they would be ambushed and killed casually, and they might have to choose to take action themselves. Because the Spider King is difficult to attack. But Jia Yan also heard what the other party said and took it to heart. In other words, he never regarded Spider King Tai as an ally from the beginning. The one who obtained the rank of the most powerful domain lord in a star cluster did not rely on allies, and the necessary killings were definitely many. He would not do it by making wedding clothes for others. With a buzzing sound, Jia Yan penetrated into the subspace, and this time he entered the deeper part of the subspace. From the outside, he actually sank into the outer periphery. It is impossible for ordinary subspace masters to sink into such a deep periphery. In this way, those who want to intercept him will be helpless in the face of the vast ocean-like subspace. After traveling around this area for several days, Jia Yan finally arrived at his destination, a place he was very familiar with. Dynasty Island. The passage is the most conspicuous guiding light in the entire subspace. Go upstream along the channel and fly out of the subspace. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Reborn as an interstellar giant mosquito. Author, Bulletin U. Chapter 3414. Rebirth of the starry sky giant mosquito. As a result, all the Allied forces belonging to the trade zone were in an uproar. No wonder, Jia Yan actually killed the new master who was regarded as equal to Jia Yan with an instant kill. I bet Jia Yan is also an absolute top master at the lower level of Domain Lord. What is even more heartbreaking is that it turns out that among the lower levels of Domain Lords, there are also differences between superior and inferior ones, and the gap is so big that they can kill people of the same level instantly. And that Jia Yan is already a top master among the lower class of territory lords. Instantly killing new members of the same rank is like child's play. The starry sky spreads out like dots of ink, and the twinkling stars are unexpected. The wider area is beyond reach. Giant mosquitoes bathe in the stars and soar across the sky. After staying in the other world for a long time, I really feel that I belong to this world. I can stay in the other world, but it is impossible to survive for a long time. I don't belong there. Jia Yan enjoyed the rare starry sky scenery heartily. Killed the same level, like an outing. Too easy for him. Before the return, the order of the trade area has changed drastically. The defeat Jia sect, which was originally gaining momentum, is now like a disappearing mouse, with no trace left behind. That's right, all the domain masters and above in this faction were beaten or killed neatly by Jia Yan. Such a terrifying deterrent has made everyone in this faction feel in danger, and no one dares to jump again. Dad, thank you for your hard work. Jia Rong had been waiting at the edge of the trading area. After seeing Jia Yan's figure, he stepped forward to greet him with a smile. It's just a small thing. Have you prepared to create the world? It's ready. That's good, I'll take a short rest and go in right away. Yes. Jia Rong is no longer the rebellious young man he used to be. Jia Yan was unexpectedly satisfied with his character and ability. It's a pity that his cultivation talent is not good. In this life, he will probably reach the peak of the star or the first level of the galaxy at most. I've met my ancestor. After resting, Jia Yan didn't see any of his colleagues in the trade zone who had been waiting eagerly for him. He just glanced at each other and stopped them one by one from rushing to greet them. Arriving at the outskirts of the world of creation, and taking a brief look at the circle of descendants of the Geo family guarding the outskirts of the world's shady world, I suddenly felt like the world has changed. Because the Geo family members have all been to the creation world and lived a rich life there, as time has accelerated, many of them have been there for tens or hundreds of years, so it is natural to give birth to a lot of offspring. But none of them had the talent that caught Jia Yan's eye. In a world with missing rules, the entire talent cannot be very good. The principle is the same as the world created by the Black God. Everything is fine. Next, let's go to Zirong's place to get a greeting gift. Yes, thank you ancestor. A group of people, young and old, were all in high spirits. This is the Mosquito ancestor that many of them have never seen before, a close relative of theirs. Jia Yan didn't have any unique feelings towards them. He didn't have much in-depth contact with them. He couldn't even call them by their names, so he couldn't get close to them. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the Starry Sky Giant Mosquito. Under Jiarong's instructions, these juniors did not bother Jia Yan too much. After Sheik left the scene, Jia Yan understood many precautions in creating the world under Jiarong's introduction. It turns out that the original intention and principle of the creation of this world by the Bai family is to absorb the rules of time on the largest scale. It may also be that the scientists of the Bai family found the rules by mistake. As me, it's a pretty good choice to learn about the rules of time. Such a precious place would only be used by the Geo family or clones in normal times. Because there is really nothing praiseworthy about the rules. Except for time, it seems that everything is not good. Practicing in them may make your strength regress. But for the competitors who are at the critical point of understanding the rules of time, this is a truly precious place. It's rare for Jia Yan to have such a treasure, and it can be regarded as a place where he can get a little bit ahead of others. Of course, other galaxy forces may have prepared many better places than this. Then I'll go in. Pay attention to the reaction of the external forces. Those people in the forces I killed may want to do something. You can warn them, even if this created world is destroyed by them. Can't hurt me. On the contrary, if they dare to do it, they must be prepared to be destroyed. Okay, I'll write it down. Jiarong felt dizzy for a while. This dad is really. After leaving the other world, a series of violent incidents occurred. The next messy finishing work will probably make him exhausted. But, it's still pretty cool. The Geo family is under a lot of pressure. Even a few days ago, a Geo family member was attacked and seriously injured in the trade area, but he endured it at that time. Now my father doesn't know what happened at that time, but he unexpectedly vented his anger on behalf of the Geo family. Who allowed them to have such a powerful elder? Jiarong sighed. At first, he was said to be gifted with his own strength, but when he looked back today, he was a little shy. He didn't look like his father's son. This talent was too bad. Fortunately, there are still some possibilities at the galaxy level. As long as you think about it for 1,000 years or even thousands of years at the star level, there will always be a breakthrough. Puff. While thinking wildly, the giant mosquito at the other end had plunged into the world of creation. The unique passage of the shady scene is a normal passage between the defense forces to prevent others from intruding. In addition, there are not only technological defense methods, but also various array energies personally protected by Edisha and others. It seems that even Jia Yan will be slightly affected if he breaks into it. And it's not like he had the intention of destroying this created world. Naturally, we have to take the formal channel. Change the form, I'm just entering into enlightenment, not imposing. Jia Yan thought for a while, and then a huge burst of spiritual power burst out. In this creation world, we borrowed the Bai family's original possession method, and built in an extremely powerful possession implant machine. Those who enter the creation world can choose to possess the body to spend time in the creation world, but because it is the relationship between the mass-produced body and the ability value of the physical body is not particularly outstanding. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant Mosquito. Jia Yan only needs to put his true body into the relatively high altitude of the creation world to perceive time under the rules of time acceleration. Another idea is to use his multitasking ability to create an alternative life of the world. It could be hundreds or even thousands of years. It's longer than my life in the real world. I don't know what insights I can gain from traveling. Thinking about it, his true body closed his consciousness at the highest point in the sky of the created world. A thought enters the world of true creation and chooses an identity. He didn't want multiple fathers and mothers to come out, so this time he used a mountain boy born out of thin air as his basic identity. Buzz. The boy appeared among the mountains and fields. After looking around, he pinched the boy's cheek again, and it actually hurt. I haven't experienced such a feeling for a long time. I'm so weak. This is an ordinary earthling. A slight sense of freshness arose in his heart. The earthling clones created before, as well as the black god clones in the world created by white god, are all extremely powerful in human types at birth. But coming to the Geo family's creative world, the clones produced in batches will naturally not have so many powerful characteristics. Wearing simple clothes, with cool sleeves, there is nothing except a 10-year-old body that was born out of thin air. It's hard to live in this. But it doesn't matter if he can't live. If he dies, he'll just get another similar body. To him, it was just an insignificant thought. I remember that I heard them say that this is the real world of cultivating immortals. It's just that a long time has passed and it has always been the world of cultivating immortals. Doesn't it mean that the progress of this world is limited, and it is meaningless? Jia Yan remembers the original Geo family's vision. The original design of this world was Xiangxia. But judging from the time of this world, it was created more than 1,000 years ago. It's meaningless if it stays the same. Jia Yan resisted not using his real body consciousness to sweep the world and feel all the secrets. That would be too boring. The main thing is that the real body is feeling from above, and the avatar is experiencing life from below. It is also an auxiliary to the feeling. If it continues to sweep, there will be nothing to feel. Creak. Sure enough, there is a bit of technological foundation. That's right, there are often Geo family members from the outside world, or masters from the trade zone who come to understand, improve, and even travel around. It is unrealistic that the technology here will not be affected at all. But it still maintains a lot of its original features. The boy Jia Yan saw the scenery of a small town in the distance. Creating a world is no small feat. That's really big. Because Chang Chun just placed it in the starry sky and brought in materials from the outside world, no one was competing with them to occupy the land, so the area shrouded in darkness was several light years wide. That's too big. So the small town Jia Yan saw was just an ordinary town on a planet that cultivates immortality in this creation world. There are countless similar planets in the outside world. You kid, you're still late for school. Come and take a look at the Great Immortal Hungman's Guide to Cultivating Immortality. A copy only costs 10 spiritual stones. Jia Yan felt the surroundings and stepped into this town. This chapter is not finished. Click next page to continue reading U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant Mosquito. He was walking down the street like an ordinary naughty child. From time to time, something like a car would speed by, then fly into the sky, turning into a spiritual weapon and leaving the town. This is so much fun. He looked at it in amazement. Little brother, you are blocking me, get out of the way. A strange spiritual thought came from behind. This spiritual thought is much faster than speaking with the mouth, and it can be understood very quickly. Jia Yan, who is basically a child, almost thought he was a ghost. Divine thoughts? He realized that this was the world-creating version of the brainwave power sound transmission method. He turned slightly sideways, and something like a bicycle rushed past behind him. Then it flew into the sky and rushed towards the school in front of him at an altitude of 10 meters. Thank you very much. The young man looked down at Jia Yan. He is an extraordinary person who entered the Immortal Cultivation Academy. When he sees such a weak child, he instinctively has a natural and arrogant attitude. But when he made contact with the other party's clear eyes, he suddenly became excited. It's hard to describe what kind of look that looks like. Although I can't see any threat, I instinctively think that this person is extraordinary. When I looked at it a second time, I couldn't see anything. Something weird. The young man muttered, but the sound of the school bell forced him to give up his pursuit. Everyone has dazzled eyes, so you can't be late just because of dazzled eyes. The boy Jia Yan walked around the town and looked at the development of technology and cultivation, and gained a lot. In creating the world, not all places have reached the same level of technology and cultivation. After the initial equality of all beings, and then under the influence of a lot of time, many camps, development directions, and political concepts, eventually the entire light-year area of the creation world was divided into many humanities. This area is a place with both technology and immortality cultivation system. If you insist on being more serious, you will be more inclined to cultivate immortality. But a super-large ancient force next door was unwilling to accept new things in order to maintain the tradition of cultivating immortals. This caused him to put pressure on the outside world, which affected the area and had to halt the development of science and technology. Several major forces around them jointly resisted that force, but it was very difficult. It is quite terrifying for a pure cultivation force to focus solely on developing combat power. That's the school over there, go in and read. The boy Jia Yan entered the so-called school with a smile. What camps, what kind of blood feuds, and what kind of battles over ideas, to him, an outsider, they were just passing by, and he looked at them without any emotion or emotion. Go see whatever is new. Hey, the kid just now. In a classroom, the young man suddenly saw a boy walking outside the door. He also came to our school to study. His clothes and temperament don't look alike. Jia Yan entered the school without the permission of the guard. Although he is now physically weaker, he can still break in with some confidence using some tricks. Principal room. Standing at the door of an office, Jia Yan knocked on the door. Come in. After a reply came from inside, Jia Yan pushed the door open and entered. This chapter is not finished, click next page to continue reading /U003E/U003E. Rebirth of the starry sky giant Mosquito. Who are you? The old man with a gray beard in the classroom was slightly curious. Just now, he sensed a thin figure wandering around the school, but because it didn't look like a threat, he ignored it. Principal, I want to experience the class of Xiaoxian primary school. Can you make it easier for me? You want to experience it? Little guy, you are quite brave. The principal paused. It seems that this child is just envious of Xiaoxian elementary school and specially broke in to experience it. Moreover, he has the courage to go straight to the principal's office, which shows that he is also very brave. It was a matter of a thought. He nodded without thinking too much. Yes, but you are not allowed to go to classes such as practicing law, because it can easily lead to injury. Okay, do you have a token? I'll write a note and you take it. Thank you, Principal. Jia Yan took the note and left.